Welcome to the 700 Club. For years, Israel and Iran have been fighting each other in a shadow war. Now that's changing.
Operation Octopus is taking Israel's actions to thwart Iran to a whole new level. Chris Mitchell brings us the details from Jerusalem.
Recently, Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett announced new rules of engagement with Iran called Operation Octopus. He said, in the past year, the state of Israel has taken action against the head of the terrorist octopus. The days of immunity, in which Iran attacks Israel and spreads terrorism via its regional proxies, but remains unscathed, are over.
I think it's well overdue for both Israel and Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrainis, all of these countries that have been victims of the Iranian regime's proxy activity to start to hold Iran accountable rather than the proxies.
Some see a ratcheting up of Israel's covert and even overt operations to thwart Iran's nuclear and conventional missile and drone programs. It could explain the mysterious deaths recently of a number of Iranian nuclear scientists and military leaders. Another example, Israel's recent attack on the Damascus airport, which Israel sees as a major conduit of Iranian weapons on their way to Hezbollah in Syria. Now Israel says Iran is threatening to retaliate by kidnapping or killing Israelis in the region, and especially Turkey.
We're currently witnessing Iranian attempts to attack Israelis in various overseas locations. The security services of the State of Israel are working to thwart attempted attacks before they are launched. We will continue to strike those who send the terrorists and those who send them. Our new rule is, whoever sends, pays.
Israel's Defense Minister Benny Gantz announced a regional cooperative Middle East air defense led by the U.S.
It can help with anything related to Iran's attempts to attack countries of the region using rockets, missiles, cruise missiles, and UAVs. This program is already operative and has already thwarted Iranian attempts that I spoke about on other occasions, both here and in the Middle East in general.
With the collapse of the Israeli government, Middle East expert Eli Konim says Israel is entering a dangerous season.
The regime can see all of this as a moment of vulnerability for the Israelis and try to take advantage. My hope is that the Israelis, as much as they're dealing with elections and cobbling together coalitions and all that, that they do keep their focus on what they call the existential threat to them that the Iranian regime poses.
All this comes as the Iran-U.S. nuclear deal seems on the brink of collapse. Senators on both sides say it's unlikely Iran will agree to any new deal to limit its development of nuclear weapons. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
And the reason they're unlikely to agree to any new deal is they're on the verge of developing their own nuclear weapon. The reports out of the UN, the reports out of our intelligence services they're very close. And so if they acquire a nuclear weapon, this is an absolute game changer for peace in the Middle East. In other news, the Senate is moving towards a final vote on their bipartisan gun restriction bill by the end of this weekend. Mark Martin has that story from the CBN newsroom. Mark?
Gordon, the bill looks likely to pass the Senate, and then it will go to the House. The top two Republicans there, Kevin McCarthy and Steve Scalise, oppose the measure. Scalise says Congress must not infringe on Second Amendment rights in trying to stop violent crimes. Even so, the bill is likely to pass the House and become law. CBN Capitol Hill correspondent Matt Galka has this look at how the measure has moved forward in the Senate so far.
Moves by a bipartisan group of lawmakers means that gun reform legislation could be passed by the end of the week, right before Congress takes off for the 4th of July break. Republicans and Democrats finding compromise on the most notable new gun legislation in almost 30 years. The bipartisan bill would include enhanced background checks for 18 to 21-year-olds, funding for states that enact their own red flag laws, and to implement school safety measures. And it stops a domestic abuser from being able to buy a gun, although they can get that right back after 5 years with no convictions.
A gun safety bill that can be described with 3 words: common sense, bipartisan, life-saving.
The changes aren't as sweeping as some Democrats would have liked, but a more extreme bill wouldn't have been able to clear the 60-vote threshold in the Senate.
This time, the Democrats came our way and agreed to advance some common sense solutions without rolling back rights for law-abiding citizens. The result is a product I'm proud to support.
That statement from Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell on the Senate floor as he tried to outline why this bill had Republican support.
And it does not so much as touch the rights of the overwhelming majority of American gun owners who are law-abiding citizens of sound mind.
House Democrats have the votes to pass it, although it's unclear how many Republicans will join them. One House Republican who has already said he'd be voting yes is Congressman Tony Gonzalez, whose district represents Uvalde. Gonzalez cited domestic abuse from his stepfather in a tweet thread and ended it with, quote, "As a congressman, it's my duty to pass laws that never infringe on the Constitution while protecting the lives of the innocent. I look forward to voting yes." The NRA did put out a statement slamming the bill, saying it doesn't truly address violent crime. As for the timeline, it could have the House voting on the bill this weekend after the Senate likely passes it. Matt Gelka, CBN News.
Gun control has been in the headlines in recent weeks after the tragic mass shootings in Buffalo and Uvalde. But inflation is still the top issue for most voters. And as prices have been going up, the president's poll numbers have been falling. He's at just 33% approval in the latest Quinnipiac poll, and only 27% of likely voters rate Biden excellent or good on his handling of the economy in a Rasmussen poll. And now his latest plan to take on inflation by suspending the federal tax on gasoline for 3 months is not getting a warm reception on Capitol Hill from Republicans or Democrats. Dale Hurd has that story.
Experts say rolling back the 18 cents a gallon federal gas tax might not even be noticeable at the gas pump because of the fluctuations in oil prices. Gas prices that were closer to $2 a gallon when President Trump left office now average $4.94 a gallon and over $6 a gallon in California.
We don't know what to do because the prices are increasing every single day.
I just think the gas prices are ridiculous.
Oil and gas executives will visit the White House today for an emergency meeting with Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm. Biden, who has spent weeks criticizing the oil companies for raking in record profits, will not attend.
Bring down the price you are charging at the pump to reflect the cost you are paying for the product. Do it now. Do it today.
But Congress would need to approve the gas tax holiday, and even some key Democrats are not on board.
I'm not a yes right now, that's for sure.
And Republicans also doubt the plan will pass on Capitol Hill.
What the administration, of course, is coming up with is yet another gimmick, another Band-Aid, and something they know is dead on arrival up here in Congress. The president knows it. Democrats know it up here.
If Joe Biden is serious about getting energy costs under control, he needs to do the right thing, which is allow oil and gas exploration on federal lands.
Biden has blamed the high gasoline prices on the war in Ukraine, but they began climbing quickly after Biden took office. And Fed Chairman Jerome Powell told the Senate Banking Committee Wednesday that inflation was already high before the war. Inflation and high gasoline prices threatened Democratic control of the House and Senate in November. Critics say the real answer to high prices at the pump is making it easier to drill, something the White House has not been willing to do. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
And Gordon, it will be interesting to see how all of this plays out in the upcoming midterms.
It is, and look at this through that political lens. This is, frankly, a gimmick by the administration to try to divert attention away from their policies, or maybe blame from them to whether it's Putin and the war in Ukraine or big oil trying to gouge consumers at the pump. But when you look at 18 cents a gallon as the federal tax, and just what I've experienced, where gas has gone from $4 a gallon to $6 a gallon. So it used to be roughly $40 for 10 gallons of gas. Now it's $60. Well, if you take 18 cents off of that over 10 gallons, it just doesn't, it's like, you know, okay, you're going to take $1.80 off the bill. It's not really going to have an impact. And would it have an impact on all of the transportation expenses and the highway construction and repair, well, yeah, you lose 90 days of tax revenue. That's going to be a significant hit. So, yes, is it dead on arrival in Congress? Yes. Is it going to make an impact at the pump? No. Is he trying to win the midterms? Yes. And so from a political standpoint, that's the only way this ever makes any sense.